organization based out of So we are a design organization based out of Bangalore. We have offices in San Francisco and in Europe. What we primarily do is, my background is from research. I'm a researcher for over, I think, more than 2 decades. I've been working as an international and emerging market research specialist. My career started with Hewlett-Packard. So that's where, the core of my research work was delivered. So about 8 or 9 years ago, I co-founded an organization called Human Factors Research and Design, a design organization catering to 3 different verticals. One is the design projects, execution, and research. And third vertical is where we are building curriculums and topics related to human-centered design, design sprints, design thinking, and various other certification programs. And in that curriculum building during pandemic, I came across a lot of issues or mental fatigue that professionals, especially design and creative professionals, were undergoing within my own organization and also our customer teams. So that's when we kind of did a little bit of research using a certain, target group of participants, volunteer participants and behavioral psychologists who kind of observe people, try to understand what's going on in today's digital age. And how is this impacting us professionally, personally, and overall, the way we are operating as professionals. So I'm happy to share this topic with you in a small, short masterclass. Though this doesn't teach you everything about how to go about decluttering and getting our lives in order, but it surely touches upon the problem statement at the core. So let me see. Can you guys use chat window to introduce yourself? So primarily, I know your names. It's listed here, but can you tell me what is your background? What is your profession? Because that will help me, navigating. You can also unmute and speak because that will make it more, what do you call it? We can also share what's our background so I can fine tune my topic accordingly. Or you can use a chat window. Just a brief introduction about what is your career, what is your role, and something. Or maybe I can ask Jay Prabha. Would you like to share?
Hi. So my background is I'm a fresh law graduate, actually.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jay Prabha. Sate? No. Juliana, Jong, Albert, anybody? Banker, that's good. No, please continue to have your dinner. Sate, you're retired. Okay, so so what I'm trying to gather here is you could be from a various different profession. You could be just somebody who's going through the retirement phase, trying to see what you can take up or nurture. So irrespective of whichever age group, I would say, even if you're a student, if you're a teenager, if you're a young professional, senior management, top management, or a retired professional, I would say this topic is applicable to everybody. Why this is applicable, we'll come to see of it. So as I told, right, this topic was inspired during pandemic based on the research that we do. So how does a typical day in a life for each of us look like, whether we are retired, whether we are working in a very, a strong professional, career, or a homemaker, or a young lawyer, or a student, or a young youth who's still studying, right? Let me ask you to think about a day in a life look like for you. Let's say rewind for the last 24 hours from the time you woke up till you went to sleep. What was the one thing that was a constant in your life? Any guesses? What is that one thing which stayed with you right through the last whole week? You can use the chat. What was that one thing which was an extension of your body which was always with you? Anybody? In the last 24 hours, or just today, since morning to now? What was that one thing which was an extension of you? Yes. So Juliana, that's right? A screen. So what's happening in today's day and age, right? A screen is a constant, irrespective of which age group, profession, or work context that we belong to. There is one thing which is an extension of our hand, which is an extension of which has the most intimate relationship with us, and that is the screen, right? No points for guessing that. It has the most closest and the intimate relationship with us. So how has the screen changed our lives? Let's look at it, pre-digital days, or not even very far away, maybe a decade or 2 decades ago. We had people do our things. Like, for example, our travel agents would give us travel recommendations, book our tickets, or we had a telephone which was there in a central place, and people had to go answer the call. And if you're not available, it would go to a voicemail, and then you will have to get back to it when you have the free time. So we had salespeople who supported us at the store if we wanted to make a purchase. So in this digital era that we are living in, we are literally making all of these 10 different people's job. We are doing everything all by ourselves by using that screen, which is a constant in our life, right? So while we are navigating through these countless roles that we are playing, we are going from one thing to the other to another. Like you are just saying, okay, so we would like, I think Yoon has shared something for you, up to you to quickly take care of that. So there has been a radical shift in the way we do our jobs, right? We do 10 different people's job all by ourselves, okay? And because we are doing all of those different roles, we are, even it could be as simple as when you wake up, snoozing the alarm, to look at a notification that's come, booking something, refreshing your app, buying something, and to make some big decisions like finance, investment, health, all your emails, everything is in this particular single screen that is there, right? How has this taken over our lives? Let's explore our digital life, right? This was the pre-digital days. Let's explore today what is going on. So in your home, or in your family, with the context of your family, right? It could be just 2 people, 4 people, or just 1 person, right? When you look at your extended family, every single person has an access to technology, and information is at the fingertips. We all have access to high-speed internet connection, multiple screens, multiple devices, emails, instant messaging, social media, ads to click, blogs to read, posts, and everything on the browser, right? We have more information today. We navigate through tons of data to get to what we are seeking. We don't have a choice of selection, but the data just keeps coming in front of us, and we are left to just keep on accessing this data, filter through them, decision on what to read, what not to read, or everything that scrolls. There is an attention that is grabbing from us. And all of these things that we are doing, what is this actually doing to us? Okay, are we even aware of what's going on in our brain, right? In this today's digital life, right? We are packing several things at one. We think that we are doing multiple things all at once. Is it possible that we are doing more than the things that we do in a minute than a few decades ago? No, not really, because what we are doing is we are paying attention to one thing, then we are going to something else, and then something else, then something else, then we are coming back to the first. All these tasks are occurring in separate parts of our brains, in separate pockets, distributing our attention into several segments, right? So what does this actually do? We are not really engaging in one task, completing it, and then moving to the next, like we used to do in pre-digital days. All this scanning information, switching, filtering is impacting our brain. it is actually started to deplete our neurobiological resources. That is the reason you will be hearing a lot of stress related issues in today's day and age than in the past. There are things like mental fatigue, exhaustion, mental fog, scrambled thinking. These are really very big topics that organizations are investing in to see how they can get their professionals to come out of this, because our life is completely reduced to that one single screen. Our work, our personal life, our hobbies, our relationships, our social agendas, and our everything is packed into this one single screen, right? So thank you, Ranjit. Welcome. I also got in late, so it's all right. So we think that we are actually multitasking, but actually multitasking is just a myth. We think that we are doing too many things in a day and we are achieving a lot. But come to think of it, is our brain really capable of multitasking? Not really. Several hundred email alerts in your box, your DM statuses, your phone's buzzing, your notifications on different devices, social media updates, posts to read. With all this constant buzzing, we're constantly switching from one to the other rapidly. It's pulling us in different directions. How are we actually focusing on one important task? And then we have so many different things demanding our attention. Our concentration is distributed from one thing to the other. Researchers and studies have proven that human brain can actually concentrate on one thing at a time. Multitasking is a myth. It's simply not possible. So let's look at an online buying experience, okay? A few decades ago, how an online buying experience you would be, right? Say, for example, you wanted to buy a red t-shirt to your child or to your own self for some event. So in the pre-digital days, you used to go to a store. You used to say, I need a red t-shirt. They would ask, what is your price point? And you will get a selection of red t-shirts that would be displayed, and the salesperson will help you to pick, choose. Depending on the price point, you'll make a decision and you will drive back home and you will go maybe with your family or alone or whatever. You'll come back with the purchase. Today, all you're doing is sitting in front of the screen, looking at tons of apps, looking at 10,000s of t-shirts, eliminating those, looking at the price points and who is offering the best deals, and toggling between one application to the other to be able to choose that one red t-shirt. Actually, it should have been easy, right? It should have been, everything is in the fingertips. You don't have to navigate through the traffic. You don't have to go talk to somebody. You don't have to stand in front of the store manager and then ask them. Even though we have access on our fingertips, we have thousands of options. It has been very taxing. At the end of this process, you feel a kind of fatigue, even though all you're doing is using these fingertips. Why? Because even though physically you're not moved from this particular chair, your brain has to eliminate 10,000 odd things to be able to choose one. There is a sheer amount of data overload on our brains. So let's look at, just think about it for a minute. Do you agree that even though you're doing these shopping things and everything, just by sitting in front of your desk, there's a sense of a fatigue you feel at the end of the day? Okay, now let's think about a family size like mine of 3 people, right? My shopping needs for the entire month, everything put together, shouldn't be more than 200 items, plus or minus. But for me to be able to do that, I have to ignore 1,000 other items I don't need to buy to complete my shopping. Dr. Daniel Leviticon, a cognitive psychologist from Canada, what he says is we are not just ignoring, right, what we don't want. We are actually seeing, we are thinking, we are scanning. Okay, guys, I think what you just experienced, that itself proves that decluttering is very important. You know, we have no choice for what our eyes have to see, even though we don't make those decisions, right? We are just put to test with those kind of things. So can you see my screen? You'll have to respond using the emoticon, so I know that you're with me. Otherwise, it looks like I'm talking to just a screen. So there's a emoji down below in your, you can say yes, no, okay, or use the chat window to tell me that you're with me. So it's important. Otherwise, it looks like, I'm just talking to a wall. Yeah. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. It's important that, even though we are in this virtual world, there is a little bit of human connect that we can kind of salvage. Okay. So coming back to the topic, right? Like I was saying, Dr. Daniel Levitin, a cognitive psychologist, what he says is, we're not just buying something, we are ignoring. And for us to ignore, we have to see, think, scan, and make decisions for each of those items. And you may not have thought about it so deeply, but our eyes are subjected to things that our brain has to make a decision. And this is depleting our neurobiological resources. And that is the reason we feel extreme fatigue, though physically we have not gone anywhere. We're just sitting in front of the, a system. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not against the psychology of online shopping. It's a great and amazing innovation. And technology has actually made our life so much more simpler. But the flip side is the sheer amount of data that we have to access, we have to process, or we have to filter through is exhausting and confusing. In 1950, imagine we are in 2023. In 1950, two scientists, James and Peter Milner, they carried out an experiment involving rats. Okay, now what was this experiment? Sorry, my screen is not moving. So what was this experiment, right? In this famous self-simulation, they performed on the rats. They kind of got lab rats into this study where they hooked them with a kind of an electric shock, which gives them a pleasure shock. See, the rat is pressing on the lever. So every time the rat presses that lever, it will get a dopamine shot, which is again called the pleasure center of our brain, right? It's the region of our brain that lights up. Say, for example, a drug addict, when they take cocaine or something, the brain that actually lights up and makes them feel whatever they feel, that's called the pleasure center. So here, every time the rat kind of clicked on that lever, it kind of got the dopamine shot, just like that. So what do you think the rats did? They went on clicking this lever because they were getting these dopamine shots. They did not eat, they did not sleep, they even ignored the tastiest food that was presented to them because they just loved this dopamine shots they were getting, and they continued to do this until they died of starvation and exhaustion. So every time we check a post, Facebook feed or Insta feed, or somebody's post or somebody's DM, somebody's status, our brain is getting a dollop of reward hormones. That's telling us we have accomplished something. Every time we click heart, or every time we click like, or every time we say something to somebody on social media, we are experiencing a feeling of pleasure and feeling more connected socially than to get physically or socially. So we are feeling mentally connected, and that's the reason we keep doing it. You must have experienced, right? The unlimited scroll that you do. There are times when you just can't stop it. It just keeps going on and on and on, and you don't know where to stop. Just like the rats. Azar Raskin, who is actually the inventor of this infinite scrolling, who is the inventor, okay, he actually apologized and said sorry publicly, saying that this was one of the worst innovation. Why do you think? Because social media companies are using this same behavioral cocaine and sprinkling it all over the interface. That's the thing that keeps us keep going back to TikToks and Insta feeds and keep on looking without having an end time. These companies use something called the hook model: trigger, action, reward, and investment. The hook model creates an addictive loop that keeps users glued to their phone screens. Just like the rats, all you do is scroll. So take a minute to reflect on things that you have done, which has made you a little bit addictive on any of the things that you do. So that's what the topic is about. There is an addictive behavior that we all have succumbed to. Forget what's going on with our younger ones or the little ones or the youth. Glenn Wilson, professor of psychology, calls it infomania. His research found out that, in situations where you're trying to concentrate on a particular task and an email comes and then there is some alerts, your effective IQ is reduced by 10 points. Wilson also showed that the cognitive losses from these multitasking that we are doing, right? It's greater than the cognitive losses from people who smoke pot. Excuse me. To make matters worse, it is so intertwined. Excuse me, guys. Lots of multitasking requires decision making. So when we are looking from one screen to the other or moving from one to the other, we are thinking we are multitasking. Okay. And then what is happening is our brain is subjected to tons of decision making. I know we never thought about it like that, but that's where things are today. It turns out that decision making is also very hard on our neural resources, and those little decisions that we make every second takes up as much energy as these big ones. The result is we lose impulse control. After making tons of these small decisions, we end up making a very bad decision on some very important topic. If you reflect upon your few of your decisions, you'll know that on a very important topic, you must have had a very bad decision because you are so subjected to decision making on these daily basis that you lose your impulse control. Let's look at behavioral aspect of those people who have created some remarkable innovation, just like, say, for example, Steve Jobs. How do they counter these decision fatigue? Do you know that Steve Jobs wore one kind of outfit? Why do you think that? It's because to overcome decision fatigue. They are creative people and they have tons of decisions that they have to make and important decisions. So it's just a behavioral analysis that they have repetitive wardrobe because every time they wake up, they don't have to think too much. They just go to the wardrobe, pick up something that's a standard, and they keep wearing that. Just like that, even Mark Zuckerberg, you'll see, or Ludwig van Beethoven, we all know the kind of work he left behind for us. He used to wake up every day in the morning and did not waste time getting to work. His breakfast was coffee, and he prepared with 60 beans that he chose and made this coffee and got to work. And look at the work, the creativity, and the kind of work they have left behind. Why? This reduces the number of decisions they have to make on a daily basis in order to save their energy for the most important decisions they make. And what they have left behind for us to enjoy is this fantastic innovation and a great body of work. Decision fatigue is real. Our brains have limited store of energy. This constant decision making is impacting this store. Let's explore further on how social media consumption is impacting us. Satyavel, I will come back to your question later. Okay, let me just complete my thing. So our constant need to check social media updates. Who has posted? Who has liked my post? Which post should I like? What's going on in people's lives? My social circle's life. What are they doing? We want to stay on top of everything that's going on. There are some careers that require rapid switching examples, right? Like, for example, simultaneous translators, right? They are hearing and they are delivering one language and another language out. Or air traffic controllers, journalists. So do you know these professions, it is mandatory rule that these professionals take after every 2 hours of work, they have to take a 15 to 30-minute physical break, which means they have to either go for walk, exercise, listen to music, restore all their burnt out neurochemicals. Now, look at our lives. We are not simultaneous translators or journalists or air traffic controllers. What are we doing? We are constantly with a screen and we are not giving any break for any physical aspect. So today our work, news updates, news information, shopping, social, entertainment, hobbies, games, leisures, everything comes from one location, and that is the screen we are glued to. We don't know what the depth of impact all this has on our brains because there is no statistics or data to prove that. But we are all of us are showing symptoms and no diagnosis is being made. This is a dangerous sign. It's a cause of concern, right? So I'm sure I have touched upon this topic also, that gaming is like, our leisure activity or our hobbies or the things that we do after work, it also comes from our screen. And how, children are so addicted to gaming these days. There was a 16-year-old boy recently from India, from a tier 2 city, that means a small town, not a very developed metropolitan city, right? Who did a 8-hour school and then continue to play game online. And then after about, say, 18 hours or whatever, the boy collapsed. And when they took him to the hospital, he had a brain hemorrhage, because our brain is not able to cope with this new standard of deluge of data and the digital era that we are living in. Okay, so it's very, very important that there are certain standards and practices that we do so that, sorry, my screen is stuck. So decision fatigue is real. After making series of decisions, putting ourselves through months and months of decision making, our brain plays a trick on us. We make these irrational decisions. So decision fatigue, multitasking, okay, information overload, all of these has left our impact on our brains. Now, how is this impacting us? Let's look at that. We have a cognitive overload, sensory overload, and information overload. I believe there are about 5 billion people as of today online, and 3.5 billion Google searches, and about 306 billion daily emails are sent. A recent study shows that on average, an adult spends about 11 hours minimum using a digital device. While there is no concrete research to show what the actual limit is when it comes to average time online, a study in adolescents shows that after about 2 hours, just like the simultaneous translators or certain professions which requires you to take a break, our brains showed symptoms of anxiety and fatigue. The bottom line is, too much information all at once and over a period of time can lead to a number of problems: difficulty focusing, extreme irritability, restlessness, discomfort, excitedness, anger, and all of those dopamine shots that you looked at. We are experiencing an age of overload. Our brain receives too much information and feels trapped and panics. The cry for help is not addressed by any kind of diagnosis. It's a silent cry which nobody is able to hear. The desire to be constantly online, fear of missing out, is making us anxious to constantly check those social media feeds and disconnecting us from the digital life. I'm not moving from my topic. It's still declutter, right? So all of this information overload, data overload, how is this impacting our brain? It is creating a lot of biases in us. So this is the Cognitive Bias Codex. You can go and read more about this online. It's free. It's rendered by John Manoogian. The 180 plus biases that is designed here, shows us how we as human beings take these biases, how these biases influence the way we work as a professionals, whether it is in the field of law, in the field of medicine, in the field of anything, right? How these biases are influencing technology that we work on, how these biases gets transferred from technology is so shocking, right? So a great infographic from Google shows how human biases is transferred to technology. Because of amount of information that is going into our brain, we are transferring them to the technology, which in turn is impacting the design. Human biases is transferred to technology. Let me give you an example. Tesla recently recalled 1.1 million US vehicles because of some window automatic reversal system failure. So it's not reacting correctly after detecting an obstruction, which was increasing the injury, right? So Tesla said that during the product testing in August, Employees identified window automatic reversal system, performance that had greater than expected variations in response to pinch detection. But how 1.1 million cars were shipped with this error to the market? Also, LinkedIn introduced a feature called Stories. This was popularized by Snapchat, and they wanted to adapt that to Insta Stories. So it went to Insta Stories, and then LinkedIn wanted. But within a year of this launch, the company felt these stories had no future, and they had to announce that it was shutting down. Why? Because we cannot copy what works for others just because we want to increase our user engagement. So Instagram is also reversing some, some changes on the photo and the video app, which they borrowed from, just like mimicking from TikTok. So what is happening is companies are pushing a lot of data because they want to increase user engagement. In this age of competition and innovation, the professionals working in these organizations are also in digital fatigue, data fatigue, brain fatigue, and they're transferring this into the technology and work. So this is just a high level problem statement that I'm trying to table it for our discussion. Hence my topic, declutter. Okay, so let me also bring you why declutter, right? There are so many different ways we could do that. Why declutter? Because clutter affects our brain and work. So scientists at Princeton University of Neuroscience, they said our brain actually likes order. That constant visual reminders of disorganization drain our cognitive resources and reduce our ability to focus. So it is important that we keep our home environment clutter-free and work environment, our digital tech. All of this will affect our brain. The level of stress hormone cortisol were higher in mothers whose home environment was cluttered. Elevated cortisol levels sustained over a time can lead to anxiety and depression. That is the reason declutter, according to our research, came to the top of the discussion, that a decluttered space, a decluttered tech that we use helps our brain see order and navigate through today's digital age more smartly, delivering better output in our work. So clutter is affecting our general mental health, making us feel stressed, anxious, and depressed. So we at Human Factors Resistant Design, we created a small sample size of volunteers who were willing to participate in a study. And we started our first experiment with decluttering our home spaces. So it was three phases that we used: home, then workspaces, then digital spaces. So thus began our journey. So what was the philosophy we used? We used the Japanese 5S philosophy. Now, what are these 5S philosophy? Sort, set, shine, standardize, and sustain. This is a Japanese term: Sheri, Seithun, and Shiso, Setsuke, and Shitsuke. Now, what does this do? This is just like, this 5S is for organizing spaces, so work can be performed efficiently, effectively, and safely. This system, focusing on putting everything where it belongs, keeping the workspace clean, was actually introduced by Toyota in the mid-20th centuries, and now it's a part of the Six Sigma process and everything. So what does this do, right? Seri, which is sort, arranging everything in contours. Keep what you want, delete what you don't. Not sure, move to a different folder and decide later, or move to a different box and decide later. Okay, that is the first step. Second is simplify or set in order. Organize things to find quickly, put them all in a cluster or a same family, move to different storage locations so that it can all be in a automated, it can improve productivity, right? You can easily and quickly find it, and you know where exactly it is without giving your brain too much of time to think, or where you've forgotten and things like that. right? Then comes standardize or stick, Seketsu. Standardizing naming convention, labeling your folders, putting things in order, removing unnecessary things that are not required, filing management rules, all of this comes in standardize and stick. Then the last one is sustain. Now, what is sustainment? Putting this structure, scheduled periodic maintenance and standardization and monitoring this over a period of time. This 5S has helped us. So if you think this is a real problem statement, then you will have to make that decision today to say that, hey, I'm going to start my journey of declutter today. I'm not going to wait for tomorrow because tomorrow will be too late, irrespective of which age or which phase of your life you're in. It is important that you understand the importance of declutter. So make that decision today. That is the first step. Once you make the decision, you will take necessary actions. Once those actions are performed, over a period of time, it becomes habit. And habit over a period of time can show you a change in your lifestyle, in your professional life. You will be a better professional, better mental and physical health, and able to give creative output, which is on par with Ludwig van Beethoven, for all I care, because all our brains are in the same, it's not different, it's the same brain. It's just that how one has used and how one has depleted. That's the point of discussion. So the actions we take over a period of 21 days, you are aware, it becomes a habit, and habit shows you the change of life. So I also applied this knowledge to my surroundings, to first starting from our organization, volunteers who worked with us, and then we moved to children, small children. We kind of trained them, and the joy that you see are real. They started with small, sorting things and ordering things and keeping it in, different aspects. And similarly, we changed the community around us, just like how this is an experiment of one of our professionals' table, right? A declutter environment makes up for a better design projects output by this person who was a volunteer at our study. All right. So digital declutter is an important aspect. We cannot say that, it's basically an audit of our digital life, followed by removing, reorganizing everything into simpler, more secure, and more backed up system. So please understand, Cal Newport, a computer science professional in digital minimalism, right? He offers a blueprint for organizing our technology around what we value most. So we use some of those methodologies, those learnings to create certain algorithms that you can apply. And over a period of time, it kind of makes you live a better decluttered life. I'm not talking about minimalism. I'm talking about what is today's must requirement for a professional. So it's like human for years, like this is 21st century. We invented a product like this where we could read 5 books at a time. This is a library 300 years ago. What actually she's doing is she's reading 5 books at the same time. So multitasking or the urge to do many things at the same time is not the problem of digital era. It's a problem of, humankind. We want to do multiple things all packed into it, and we want to feel that adrenaline, right? But actually what's happening is we are not productive, and we are kind of switching. And this is especially in today's day and age, it is impacting our brain. So this is the table we prepared to help one declutter and audit their digital life, right? So documents, photos, music, emails, like this, we have a bunch of algorithms and methodologies that we have prepared, which when applied in a structured way can help you declutter. Optimizing the brain, asking the brain to shift from one activity to another medically has shown that it has damaged the brain. So let's make that decision to declutter today. So we at Human Factors, we kind of created a optimized design ops. What you see here is our design life cycle in our organization, right? So we are applying these fundamentals and principles. We were able to come up with a perfect design operations that helped us get things done in a particular way and of the highest quality, and also reducing the fatigue. So guys, a decluttered life makes up for a rested mind. So join us for the digital declutter session that Garranto offers for the Malaysian audience. So let's declutter. Thank you. This is my QR code. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions to me, I will be happy to help you or, recommend certain tools and tips and productivity tools, which will help you at least start your journey. I'll be happy to do that. Okay, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. All right, so now I can take questions if you have. Sorry, I had to go a little fast because we started the session a little late. If we are not wired for multitasking, why the world or social expectation out there expecting multitasking? Will we eventually be capable of multitasking over time? Satyavil, Govinda, let me tell you one thing. Our brain has never changed from thousands of years ago. It has not changed. But what has changed is the ecosystem that we live in, right? Are you with me? Can you hear me? Can you show me that, yes, you're understanding? Yes, okay. So when our brain has not changed, but the ecosystem that we live in has changed, right? So what we are doing today to our brain is pretty scary. So it is our individual responsibility to use the same technology, same available resources and tools to be able to make that decision to apply these so that we can have a better usage of this technology and more productive, not kind of get burnt out. I don't know if you have heard, I've heard a lot of professionals coming to me and saying, I am done. I want to just get out of my professional life because of the sheer fatigue. I don't know if you have heard, right? Doing the same things and over a period of time, it kind of creates a lot of stress. Like I know somebody is a young lawyer who's just getting into, I don't want to scare you, you're just getting into your career. But if you try to do something in the beginning of your career as a habit forming, then what happens over a period of time, you will be able to have a better career, successful career with a balanced life. That's where our aim to bring this as a certification program. So anybody has any questions? Satyavil, I hope I've answered. You answered yourself, but I tried. Anybody else? It's okay, you join the session unless you're unless you're multitasking. You're listening to me and you're like looking at your phone or your other screen, surfing, reading something, you're multitasking. Then surely only 50% of what I shared today would have been making sense, right? So multitasking is a myth. I'm sure you can experiment this with your own self as well.